Hello, my name is Brooke McCorkle Okazaki, and I want to thank you for listening to my talk today. I also thank Ogino sensei and the Waseda Opera Kinkyukai for inviting me to speak. In 1967, Japan's classical music world was abuzz. For the first time in its illustrious history, the Bayreuth Festival would perform abroad. Its destination? Osaka, Japan. There, Bayreuth cast and crew would offer Japanese opera aficionados multiple performances of Wieland Wagner's productions of Die Walküre and Tristan and Isolde as part of the Osaka International Festival's 10th anniversary. The latter was performed under the baton of Pierre Boulez, with the local NHK orchestra accompanying. While this was neither the first time a German opera company had toured Japan, nor was it the national premiere of Tristan and Isolde, the Bayreuth Festival's tour to Osaka was momentous. On February 11, 1967, the Bayreuth stage manager Joachim Storyville traveled to Japan to begin adapting the concert stage of Osaka Festival's music hall to suit Bayreuth's needs. The total cost of the event was approximately 200 million yen, or about $2 million US. Preceding the performances, Japan's leading music journal, Ongoku no Tomo, hailed the Bayreuth visit as finally bringing authentic Wagner music drama to Japan, while also mourning the sudden death of Wieland Wagner the previous autumn. Birgit Nilsson and Wolfgang Windgassen starred as the eponymous couple in Tristan and Isolde, and reviewers heaped praise on Nilsson. One such review from the Yomiuri newspaper's April 18, 1967 edition declared, quote, "The soprano Nilsson is amazing. One can say that the orchestra was considerably tucked deeply into the box pit, but Nilsson's vocal power and technique overcame that great composition's massive reverberations, conveying the smallest nuance to every seat. It was an extraordinary thing. For the first time, I had the pleasure of listening to Wagner under ideal circumstances." End quote. The Bayreuth Festival's immense success in Osaka in 1967 inspired local theaters like the Takarazuka Revue. The following year, in 1968, the all-female musical theater company staged its own version of Tristan und Isolde. So the Takarazuka Revue is a musical theater company based in a suburb of Osaka. It first appeared on the entertainment scene in the 19-teens amid a wave of popular entertainment from abroad that included cabaret, silent film, and musicals. Railway and department store tycoon Kobayashi Ichizo founded the revue in 1913. Just as Wagner's Bayreuther Festspiel lured pilgrims in search of entertainment to rustic Bayreuth, the revue's performances at the Takarazuka Grand Theatre were meant to attract visitors to the sleepy resort village, also called Takarazuka, located between Osaka and Kyoto. Guests would arrive via the Hankyu railway line, also conveniently owned by Kobayashi. Eventually, a department store and beauty salon were added to attract female patrons to Takarazuka, while the Takarazuka Familyland amusement park entertained their children. The Takarazuka Revue empire epitomizes Gesamtkunst capitalism that reflects the merging of art, entertainment, and commerce. With the Takarazuka Revue, Kobayashi aimed to develop a form of modern Japanese musical theater that balanced Japanese theatrical practices with Western ones. In his conception of all-girl theater, Kobayashi borrowed elements from kabuki, a form of local music dance theater popular since the 17th century. Similar to kabuki, which featured exclusively male performers, Takarazuka has actresses performing both male and female roles. This way, there would be no risk of the mingling of sexes or rumors of lurid promiscuity that haunted some Japanese opera singers and entertainers at the time. Western-style operetta, opera, and variety shows were actually flourishing in Tokyo's Asakusa Entertainment District when Kobayashi devised his scheme. As a result, Kobayashi took a cue from the Asakusa stage and created a theater that included both frivolous stories and dramatic ones, all accompanied by music and dance numbers. Unlike the rowdy atmosphere associated with Asakusa opera, though, Takarazuka was promoted as non-sexual and child-friendly. It could, quote, be enjoyed by boys and girls with pure hearts, end quote, though today its primary consumers are women. Kobayashi established a training school for the young actresses. Those admitted to the highly competitive school were coached to perform specifically as either male characters, called otokoyaku, or female ones, called musume-yaku. The school, under the aegis of the all-male management, provided a strict education not only in acting, singing, and dancing lessons, but also mandated that students took cultural classes that would ensure the girls' femininity when they retired from the Takarazuka stage. The Takarazuka Revue's fusion of Western style and Japanese mass cultural entertainment continues to amuse patrons in the 21st century. Nowadays, the Revue's 5 troupes, Flower, Moon, Snow, Star, and Cosmos, perform compilation shows with song and dance numbers, musicals both homegrown and imported from abroad, as well as adaptations from cinema, literature, and manga, and theater. Takarazuka's operatic adaptations, in particular, provide insight into the global flow of music culture and adaptation, as Arthur Gruss illuminated in his studies of Takarazuka's interpretations of Madama Butterfly. While Gruss is concerned with Takarazuka's mitigation of Puccini's exoticism, the troupe has produced adaptations of other operas that deftly interrogate gender performance and romance. In particular, the Revue's 1968 interpretation of Wagner's Tristan and Isolde tackles issues of love, gender roles, and androgyny that are at the core of Takarazuka's aesthetic and, as Jean-Jacques Nattiez has pointed out, Wagner's operas. The all-female company has a long and complicated history in Japanese culture as both a modern form of entertainment and as a complex nexus of gender performance, fandom, and nationalism, as Jennifer Robertson, Watanabe Hiroshi, Leonie Strickland, and Yamanashi Makiko have all documented in their scholarship. In the rest of this paper, I consider the Revue's history of Wagner adaptations and then reconstruct the production and reception history of the troupe's 1968 realization of Tristan and Isolde. The musical took its inspiration from Wagner's opera and other Tristan legends, but molded the tale to suit the aesthetics of stage musicals better and serve as a star vehicle for its leading otokoyaku in the role of Tristan, Maho Shibuki. By means of a conclusion, I ponder the ways gender performance intersect in Wagner's music drama and Takarazuka's adaptation. Takarazuka's official show-length opera adaptations include Aida, Il Trovatore, Turandot, Les Contes de Rosenkavalier, Madama Butterfly, and Tristan and Isolde. The pageantry of Wagnerian music drama especially suited similarly excessive Takarazuka aesthetics. Takarazuka has treated Tristan to 3 different adaptations, actually. The first appeared in 1951. The second, which is the focus of this paper, was presented by Snow Troupe in 1968, and a later adaptation, called Elegy, appeared on stage in the 1997-98 season. However, Tristan was not the first Wagner opera in which Takarazuka Revue's various troupes had dabbled. In June 1935, Takarazuka's Moon Troupe presented a show called The Story of Swan Castle, or Hakuchou Jotan, as part of an evening that also included an original operetta called Mohnblumen. The libretto for The Story of Swan Castle was by a fan who submitted it to a contest in the weekly publication called Weekly Asahi, which is a supplement to the daily Asahi newspaper. Promotional images of the costume performers, as you can see here, suggest that Wagner's Lohengrin kindled the contest winner's imagination. The influence of Lohengrin makes sense, given that the music from the opera was circulating in Japan thanks to local music publishers, and the bridal chorus had already caught on as a popular wedding tune. Tannhäuser, another Wagner opera that was popular in early 20th century Japan, also appeared on the Takarazuka stage in the 1930s, albeit in abbreviated form. In March of 1936, the Snow Troupe presented a double bill that included the original musical comedy, The Sweet Bride, as well as a ballet featuring Wagner's music called Tannhäuser's Fantasies. The story for the ballet included the characters Tannhäuser, Elizabeth, and Venus, along with other dancers appearing as pilgrims and nymphs. Considering the cast of characters, one can safely surmise that this ballet was not accompanied by the opera's Venusberg ballet music, or at least not only by the opera's ballet music. Instead, it is likely that the musical accompaniment was a compilation of Tannhäuser's greatest hits that included, undoubtedly, the Pilgrim's Chorus, which was popular with vocal ensembles at the time in Japan. Now, given that Takarazuka had some experience with Lohengrin and Tannhäuser, and both operas had a history of popularity in Japan, why would the troupe's creative team turn to Tristan and Isolde, a comparatively thorny and contentious work, for inspiration? Beyond the success of Bayreuth and Osaka in 1967, it's possible that the story of doomed lovers appealed across cultures, as several plays from traditional bunraku and kabuki theater dramatize doomed love ending in double suicides, and frequently pit love and duty against each other. The Tristan legend also suited the typical requirements of contemporary Takarazuka musicals. It had an exotic foreign setting, a triangulated love affair, and tragic ending. In comparison with the other Wagner operas, Tristan's focus on passion and romance was compelling for Takarazuka's predominantly female fans, and its fairy tale setting in medieval Europe made the show all the more attractive. Finally, the show's star couple, actresses Kamo Sakura and Maho Shibuki, were fan favorites who embodied the ne plus ultra of femininity and masculinity. Because they were both female, Takarazuka's interpretation of Tristan ostensibly minimized the sensual aspect so prominent in Wagner's opera, and instead highlighted the couple's pure spiritual love that is typically promoted in Japanese girls' culture. From June 29th to July 29th, 1968, the Takarazuka Revue's Tristan and Isolde entertained fans seeking romantic escapism. The Snow Troupe presented the show, which ran at the Takarazuka Grand Theater as part of a double bill that included a more typical song and dance production called Love, Dream, and Party. Seat prices ranged from 100 to 500 yen, and English-speaking audience members could rent an earphone guide for 100 yen. The show then traveled to Tokyo, where it ran from the 1st to the 27th of September in 1968, with seat prices there ranging from 200 to 1,000 yen. A special discount day featuring understudies could be seen on September 15th at 9:30 a.m. for considerably less. Tickets were available for 200 and 450 yen. Director and librettist Shirai Tetsuzo spearheaded Tristan and Isolde. Shirai had been active in Takarazuka productions since the pre-war era, when he created his first hit, Parisette, in 1930. That show established a modern and erotic style that has persisted to this day. By 1968, he was Takarazuka's chief impresario and extolled as the musical revue king. For Tristan, Shirai looked not only to Wagner, but also to Wagner's own source materials, chiefly the medieval poems of Gottfried von Strasberg and Thomas of Brittany. The opening of his musical romance, Tristan and Isolde, makes apparent the show's connection to the medieval legends vis-a-vis Wagner. A recurring troubadour narrator appears on stage, beckoning audiences. Quote, "Listen to this tale from the distant past. The tale of love that is now told is one of unprecedented, powerful love and extraordinary sorrow, eternal love and death. The tale of Tristan and Isolde." The musical proper then begins with Tristan's battle with Morold, who has traveled to Cornwall to demand Ireland's tribute. King Mark hails the victorious Tristan, but Melot, who is also a nephew of the king, is jealous. He convinces Mark to send Tristan to Ireland to win the Princess Isolde's hand in marriage for Mark. Melot hopes that Tristan, having killed Morold, will be struck down the moment he lands on Ireland's shores. Upon arrival, Tristan discovers that he must defeat a dragon terrorizing the Irish countryside if he hopes to win the princess for Mark. Though Tristan is successful, the dragon wounds him. Isolde, though she instantly recognizes Tristan as Morold's opponent, heals him, and the two fall in love as Isolde nurses Tristan back to health. But, as promised, Tristan brings her to Cornwall to become Mark's bride. The ship scene retraces Wagner's opera, with Isolde bitterly complaining about being traded as a token of peace to Cornwall and planning to use the box of potions from her mother. She convinces Tristan to visit her cabin, and it is clear they are in love. Isolde offers him a drink that will, quote, erase sadness and allow them to forget, unquote. They toast and drink simultaneously. As the cups fall from their hands, the couple gazes at each other in wonder. In the Takarazuka version, Brangana had intended to switch the death potion for a sleeping potion, but mistakenly proffered the love potion instead. As in Wagner's Act I climax, Isolde sings Tristan, and Tristan sings Isolde as the lovers embrace. Together they then perform the main love theme, Because of You, or Kimiゆえに, discussed later in this paper. The duet expresses a sentiment similar to Wagner's libretto, and the tune returns in various guises throughout the musical. Here's a translation of the lyrics, which, according to the libretto, is sung by both characters simultaneously. The lyrical content and its musical setting echo the conclusion of Act I in Wagner's Tristan und Isolde, when the couple sings Wie sich die Herzen wogen der Heiden in a primarily homophonic texture. This technique is present in both Wagner's and Takarazuka's versions of Tristan and Isolde, is the ultimate in instantly portraying love musically. That is, they sing together at the same time in harmony. They're in love. The musical's following scene depicts the wedding ceremony and features a big chorus number called The Wedding March that was inspired maybe by the popularity of Lohengrin. Although Tristan mourns the ceremony and sings a reprise of Because of You. Two lovers meet secretly during that evening in a garden behind the castle, and scene of their love and torment. Isolde gives Tristan a ring symbolizing their love. This ring also has the power to call her to him, for he has determined that he must leave Cornwall to protect Isolde's honor. Together they sing an excerpt from Because of You. However, Froissart, a jester, loyal to Melot, surreptitiously observes the couple. Melot rushes to the garden with King Mark, hoping to prove Tristan's treachery. Warned by Brangane, Tristan and Isolde hide, yet, in Othello-like fashion, Isolde has dropped her handkerchief and Tristan his necklace, indicating that they were recently in the garden together. Ashamed, Tristan emerges from his hiding place behind a tree, and the devastated Mark banishes him. The next scene opens in a tavern in the kingdom of Hoel. Tristan arrives and sits down at a table. Soon thereafter, Isolde of the White Hands appears with her entourage. An unwanted admirer calls and threatens her to accept his proposal of marriage. Tristan, caught by the woman's name, steps in and rescues Isolde of the White Hands. The narrator Troubadour then emerges and explains that because of Tristan's chivalrous act, Isolde of the White Hands falls in love with him and they marry. However, Isolde of the White Hands knows that Tristan loves another woman. Tristan finally decides to return to Cornwall despite a penalty of death. If the Irish Isolde no longer loves him, he determines that he will happily spend the rest of his life loving Isolde of the White Hands. However, back in Cornwall, Isolde still pines for Tristan. Melot harasses her and expresses his own attraction to her. Isolde rejects him, and in response he viciously tells her that Tristan has been unfaithful and then departs. Suddenly, Tristan appears, and the lovers embrace. Isolde warns him of the penalty of death, but he says a single moment with Isolde is worth the punishment. Broken-hearted, Isolde realizes that they both would have been better off if Tristan had not come. Nevertheless, they affirm their love by singing a portion of Because of You. Melot and King Mark arrive and confront Tristan. Tristan and Melot fight. Melot is defeated, but once again Tristan is wounded. He returns to Carriau, where Kervenal and Isolde of the White Hands attend to him. Tristan, however, pines for the Irish Isolde. If she is on an expected ship, a white flag will be flown, and if not, a black one. As this is explained, a shepherd's flute, presumably referencing Wagner's Alte Weise, is heard. Tristan cries out, "Ah, the nostalgic sound of the shepherd's pipe! That was the song of my nursemaid. I have once again returned to my home, haven't I?" Tristan thanks Kervenal for all his kindness, but longs for a release from the pain. Not the pain of the wound, but of his love for Isolde. A boat approaches, but Tristan cannot stand up in order to glimpse the flag's color. Isolde of the White Hands instead looks for him. Jealous, she lies, declaring that the black flag is flying. Tristan sings a line from Because of You. "I shall live for you, I shall die for you," and draws his last breath. The Irish Isolde arrives soon thereafter and, bereft, drinks the poison from her box of herbal medicines. She vows that she will go to a world where only she and Tristan exist and live in eternal love and endless joy. After Isolde dies, Brangane and Mark enter, mourning the couple's deaths. In the final scene, the main performers line up on stage. Behind them on a staircase, angels stand and the entire choir and characters sing Because of You, as Tristan and Isolde move down stage center, holding hands. Stage directions indicate that gold and silver cherry blossoms fall as the curtain closes. The Takarazuka Revue's 1968 production of Tristan and Isolde incorporated elements from the medieval poems and the Wagner music drama, supplemented with a touch of Takarazuka flair. Notably, the large dance numbers typically featured in Takarazuka's shows were scarce in the case of Tristan. Instead, it featured, as Shirai described, an abundance of magnificent singing numbers. He explained that he made this change to better complement the story's dramatic tone, and ruefully bemoaned all the cuts he had to make for the sake of running time. Although there were fewer song and dance numbers than typical for a Takarazuka show, reviewers still favored the show's big choruses, like the Sailor's Dance and finale. The production's integration of dance, choruses, solos, duets, and drama hints at the Wagnerian aesthetic of Gesamtkunstwerk that by this time was common in Broadway's musical theater world in the form of the integrated musical. Like Broadway, Takarazuka of the 1960s was staging more and more musicals with cohesive narratives, though they by no means abandoned the revue format. Most commonly, the big song and dance revues rounded out the bill as secondary shows. In other words, with Tristan and Isolde, Takarazuka covered its entertainment bases, catering to audiences that preferred the older revue format and those that longed for extended musical dramas, while also reaching out to local Wagner fans. Just as Shirai's libretto for Takarazuka's Tristan borrowed from various sources to create an ideal script, the show's composers, Yoshizaki Kenji and Takai Yoshizumi, blended a palatable mix of classical and popular music to best suit the performers' voices, which were amplified, and the Takarazuka musical style more generally. Although to date I have not been able to locate sheet music for the production, some recordings are available. In 1968, Columbia Records Japan released a 45 RPM single of Tristan and Isolde in stereo for the astonishingly high price of 370 yen. Recall that tickets to the 1968 show at Takarazuka Grand Theater could be had for as little as 100 yen, and seats topped out at 500. The record features Maho Shibuki, the Otoku-yaku star, exclusively. And the record's two tracks, Golden-Haired Isolde and Because of You, highlight Maho's rich alto register and sense of dramatic delivery. However, Maho's recordings for the single undoubtedly diverge from what was heard at live performances. For example, according to the libretto, when the song Isolde of the Golden Hair first appears in the show as a transition between scenes 6 and 7, Isolde's ladies-in-waiting scene it, right after Tristan has learned that he must slay a dragon to win Isolde for King Mark. Tristan later sings a variation of the song's opening line at the beginning of scene 8, after Isolde has treated his wounds. Here, the translated lyrics from Maho's solo recording of the tune. The lyrics' references to daytime, the sun, and night, the stars, are interesting. The juxtaposition of night and day invites those familiar with Wagner's opera to consider the lyrics as an allusion to the opera's own imagery of night and day during the Liebesnacht. The music, however, is far removed from Wagner's sound world.
Isolde,
The 2.5-minute tune sounds less like an art song and more like a kayo kyoku, a popular genre from pre-war era that gained greater traction in the 1950s and 60s in Japan. Kayo kyoku combined Western and Japanese musical elements in popular song format. The genre became the basis for group sounds, Japanese electric rock and roll, that flourished in the late 60s and early 70s. The instrumentation, harmonic progression, and melodic line all denote golden-haired Isolde as a kayo kyoku. For example, the song begins at an adagio tempo with a solo electric guitar intoning a straightforward melody. Accordion accompanies it. Following this, drum set and bass guitar join in. The tempo and harmonic pacing pick up, establishing that the tune is in 12/8 meter and the key of B-flat major. The remainder of the song is in a basic A-B-B format, with solos by the guitar and accordion appearing between the two B sections. Maho's voice enters with the 8th note pickup on the name Isolde in Japanese. It's pronounced with 4 syllables, Isolde, stretching it out over 2 whole measures. Throughout the song, Maho employs rubato and breathes for dramatic emphasis. Her delivery forms a delicate tension with the rhythmic section. Sometimes she feels behind the beat slightly, sometimes her voice is on top or even ahead of the beat. The gentle tug away and return to rhythmic snugness piques interest in what otherwise may seem like a frivolous tune. By the conclusion of the second B section, Maho's voice locks in with the rhythm accompaniment, but she continues to test the boundaries of the beat, adding melismas to the repeated Isolde at the song's conclusion. The vocal flourishes musically replicate the flower to which Tristan compares Isolde to in the lyrics. It's these kinds of small decisions that illustrate the quality musicianship that made Maho Shibuki an Otokuyaku superstar. Despite the radically different sound world of the tune compared to Wagner's opera, some Wagnerian references surface in Golden-Haired Isolde. The contour of the line Isolde on the song's conclusion, on the notes C, D, C, and B flat, descends in a way that mimics Wagner's own setting of Isolde. The line imitates the moment when Tristan calls Isolde's name in Act 1 after drinking the elixir, which is a descent from E to D. Additionally, the focus on Isolde's hair is significant. The line might be a reference to a version of the legend in which Mark sees a strand of golden hair and declares he will marry the woman to whom it belongs. But it also echoes another 20th century manifestation of Tristan, Debussy's Pelléas et Mélisande. In that opera, Pelléas luxuriates in Mélisande's long locks, just as Maho's Tristan does in his own imagination. So even though Takarazuka's 1968 Tristan and Isolde seems very different from Wagner's, as evidenced by Golden-Haired Isolde, it does not escape the shadow of Wagner completely. While both Golden-Haired Isolde and Because of You recur throughout the show, the latter, Because of You, serves as the musical's main theme. As mentioned earlier, the song first appears as a love duet, acting as the musical culmination of the couple's quaffing of the love potion. It returns piecemeal throughout the rest of the production, and the tune's multiple iterations provide Takarazuka's Tristan and Isolde with a sense of musical cohesiveness. While not strictly a leitmotif per se, the tune functions similarly to one in that it signifies a specific moment in the story and repeats and evolves over the course of the show. Columbia Records Japan must have identified the song's significance to the show's drama, as it bills Because of You as the shudaika, or main theme song. The song features the same text as the version from the libretto, though the single admits the opening verse and goes straight to the chorus, beginning with the line, Because of you I would live, because of you I would die. The recording is only 3 minutes long, and, like Golden-Haired Isolde, Many of its musical components distance the song from the sound world of Wagnerian opera. Though in the case of Because of You, this distancing techniques are employed very differently. Like most Takarazuka songs, the tune's compact. Its formal structure is straightforward and balanced. It's an instrumental prelude, A, B, C, A form, instrumental bridge, and once again, A, B, C, A, and an instrumental postlude. Both the prelude and postlude of the instrumental sections contain the same musical material, and the A portions of the song are nearly identical, aside from either open or closed cadences. The song's instrumentation, which includes string orchestra, guitar, harp, drum set, and keyboard, in addition to voice, is a unique combination. Because of You does not exude a kayo-kyoku aura like that of Golden-Haired Isolde. Instead, the string orchestra, which performs the prelude and postlude, immediately evokes Western art music, but not that of Wagner's time. Instead, the short 10-second bits of music reference J.S. Bach, specifically the G minor and C minor fugues from Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1. While the Bach allusion seems out of place in a show that would assume to be reliant on German Romantic traditions, the reference to the Baroque-era master makes a certain kind of sense. Many of Takarazuka's female fans likely had some piano lessons growing up, and Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier was, and continues to be, a staple of piano pedagogy in Japan. In the context of Because of You, the Bach allusion does not represent religiosity, the Baroque era, or even counterpoint strict harmonic logic that Wagner's Tristan and Isolde toppled. Instead, the song's prelude and postlude are musical gestures referencing European music history in Japan, specifically as it related to women.
つの想い炎となりて燃ゆる我が恋
As the Bacchian bookends indicate, Because of You is situated in the key of F minor, though the body of the song departs from the Baroque style considerably. Once the verse begins, the tempo slows, and the 4/4 meter becomes significantly more elastic. When Maho's voice enters, the guitar plays a counter melody, outlining the chord changes, while harp and piano provide embellishments. The strings softly intone the harmonic changes beneath the singer's intensely rubato vocals. During the instrumental bridge, the string orchestra rises to prominence in the mix and plays in a sweeping, romantic style typical for orchestras accompanying pop singles. The drum set also enters at the bridge, providing a stricter sense of meter before the voice returns for the second verse, and Maho's rubato challenges both Baroque music sensibilities and pop music dictates. So while the sound of Because of You is unlike Wagner's music, Maho's bending of musical time imparts an emotional impact befitting of a Tristan. Lyrically, too, the single version of Because of You, without the opening verse quoted, can't seem to shake off some Wagnerian influence. The text, especially the lines, "Because of you I would live, because of you I would die," conjures up Wagner's So sterben wir, which appears first in Act 2, and melodically it foreshadows the Liebestod. Like Wagner's libretto, the lyrics for Because of You hint at the lover's spiritual sublimation in death. While the song's formal structure and music is very different from that of Wagner's opera's piece, both derive from the same emotional well. Shirai, along with Takai and Yoshizaki, together managed to allude to Wagner while maintaining the distinctive Takarazuka style in their own version of Tristan. But the most significant component of both songs is Maho Shibuki's alluring androgynous voice. The grain of Maho's husky vocals, along with her manipulation of musical time, evokes the psychological underpinnings of Wagner's lovers, just as effectively as a chromatically saturated Tristan chord. Although Kamo Sakura, the Musume Yaku who played Isolde, appears on the covers of both the program and libretto booklets, reviewers and fans of Takarazuka's Tristan overwhelmingly favored the Otoko Yaku, Maho Shibuki. Born in 1935, Maho began training to perform male characters at the special Takarazuka Academy as a high schooler. She appeared on stage with the Moon Troupe in 1952 and received her first starring role in 1955. By 1968, she was already a seasoned talent, and Shirai praised her for being the best dramatic actress among Takarazuka Revue's 400 performers. A joint interview with Shirai, Maho, and Kamo, and other cast members in the July edition of the journal Kageki underlines Maho's importance to the troupe. The interview begins with the lead actresses praising Shirai for all his hard work. Maho chimes in that he is also very strict when it comes to performers' movements, like walking, gesturing, and even breathing, but also very inspirational as a director. Shirai replies that, "Well, I guess I can say this in front of her. Maho is the best performer in Takarazuka. I took up Tristan and Isolde because of her and Kamo Sakura." The two actresses were frequently paired together as a leading romantic combination, so it was natural that Shirai would write the show's script with them in mind. Shirai also briefly mentions Wagner in this interview, noting, "The music is also good, isn't it? Because Wagner is difficult, both Takai and Yoshizaki wrote all original music to suit Takarazuka musicals, and they were able to do a great job with the main theme song." And this quote from Shirai represents a rare moment when he acknowledged both the show composers, and it suggests that he began the script with some background of Wagner's opera in place. Although Shirai recognized that Wagner's music was at odds with Takarazuka's aesthetics, the cast and crew managed to imbue the spirit of Wagner's Tristan on the Takarazuka stage. A review appearing in the August issue of Takarazuka Graph supports this assessment. The article's unnamed author also shared Shirai's estimation of Maho, writing, "Currently, in Takarazuka's costume plays, regardless of whether they are tragedies or comedies, when it comes to stars, no one can come close to Maho Shibuki, the Takarazuka's handsome leading man with the highest of acting abilities. Considering her acting, along with her song and dance talent, I think it is good to say that she is number one." The reviewer also contends that Maho's performance outshined that of her colleagues. "Whether she's singing in Tristan or performing alone in front of a curtain, she's not just singing. She's extending the emotional power of the text." This author ends with a promotion of the upcoming performances of Tristan in Tokyo and urges its readers to seize the opportunity to see the fine otokoyaku performer. Now, the effusive adulation for Maho in a nuanced role like Tristan comes as no surprise to those familiar with Takarazuka. Almost since the review's inception, the otokoyaku have garnered the lion's share of renown. These female players of men's roles do not represent realistic masculinities, but rather idealized ones that are safely confined to the fantasy of the stage and thus safe to admire and even desire. Despite Takarazuka's flamboyant melodrama between male and female characters, the all-female review simultaneously encapsulates the nebulous fluidity of gender performance and attraction. Because of this, among Takarazuka's many opera adaptations, Tristan and Isolde best resonates with the subtextual elements of gender performance imminent to the review. The androgynous component of Takarazuka's aesthetic amplifies elements of gender fluidity in Wagner's opera. Act 2 of Tristan and Isolde, for example, provides one sense of the unification between the masculine and the feminine. Lawrence Kramer observes that throughout the Liebesnacht, the characters' exchange of lines and the vocal overlapping epitomizes the mobility of gender between Tristan and Isolde. The lovers merge into one, both musically and textually, and as their voices intertwine, the lyrics for the duet O ewig Nacht, süße Nacht furthermore portray a kind of transmogrification, as you can see here. Tristan sings Tristan you, I Isolde, no longer Tristan. Isolde sings you Isolde, Tristan I, no longer Isolde. And then together, nameless, never parted, and so on and so on. Now, this is a brief moment in a 5-hour-long opera, accompanied by what is commonly called the redemption motif. Though, as Jean-Jacques Nattiez suggests, this theme might legitimately be renamed the Androgyne motif. And Nattiez later writes, "Only in death can Tristan and Isolde guarantee the eternity of their love. Androgynous union is achieved through the renunciation of the will, or the will to live, for only in this way can the lovers attain to a state of nirvana or pure contemplation." The androgyny of Tristan und Isolde is an androgyny of the night dominated by woman, just as music is now the dominant partner of the union of music and poetry. While the sorcerer of Bayreuth, in Nattiez's account, couches his discussion of music and text in binary terms, He gestures less to the normative gender construct of androgyny. Even though Wagner casts music as feminine, a deeper consideration of the qualities of music and sexuality might prompt us to consider the intangible art of sound not as feminine, but as gender itself. Music and gender alike ebb and flow across a spectra of desire, both physical and spiritual. They are mutable, not so easily pinned down to a single meaning, despite humanity's deep longing to label everything from sexual preferences to Wagnerian leitmotifs. Altogether, while Wagner's music did not literally accompany the Takarazuka adaptation, the ghosts of old Klingsor are not so easily exorcised from Tristan and Isolde. The essence of the Takarazuka Tristan as a love story and desire on the part of both male and female characters is crucial. Just as the opera, since its inception, unleashed incubating discourses on sexuality, gender, and romance, so too did the 1968 Takarazuka production. The rigid patriarchal cards of Takarazuka's administration and the performance of gender binaism in the musical romance failed to mask desires perhaps ineffable, but not necessarily unacknowledged or unrealized by its audiences. Like Wagner's opera, the Takarazuka Revue and its 1968 Tristan and Isolde epitomized the ambiguity of gender and embraced the romantic myth of the Androgyne. Thank you for listening to this talk and presentation. You may email me at bmccorkle@carleton.edu. You can see my email in the lower left-hand corner. And I look forward to your questions and comments. Thank you.